A motion, please, to amend the posted agenda to move item number 2, which is public comment, to the final agenda item of the evening, please.
I'll make a motion, we move public comment.
Thanks. Do you have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thanks.
I'd like to propose another motion that we have one VSA 313A for the board to meet in executive session to discuss personnel and board members.
Okay. Let's take those one at a time.
Mhm.
So the first one,
Correct.
we have first and second to amend the agenda and move in public comment to the end. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of amending the agenda as described, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Nope. Okay, great. So we've moved that. Glenn.
I do have I'd like to make a motion to have executive session one VSA 313, which allows for public bodies to enter to discuss appointment, employment, or any public officer or employee. I think we have some things to talk about as a board. And we should go into executive session.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Great. So we have a first and a second. Any discussion about the motion on the floor to amend the agenda as described? Do you want to recommend where we stick that in?
Of course not.
Okay. So how about,
Oh,
do you anticipate action meeting to be taken?
maybe. Yeah, it depends on
Okay.
how the conversation goes.
Let's move that to, how about we do that at just after FYI, just before public comment?
I think we should go after public comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to?
Yep.
Sure. Do you want to modify the motion just so we make it official?
Yep, so, I'd like to enter executive session 313, VSA 313A, after public comment in today's meeting.
Cindy, you good with still seconding that? Great. So any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of amending the agenda as described, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Great. So now we have 11 agenda items. The first one we're going to move to is Pledge of Allegiance. So I would invite anyone who cares to, you can rise with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. So that brings us to the consent agenda, which was published with 3 sets of meetings, as well as a nomination form to approve. So first of all, are there any suggested modifications to any of those sets of minutes? Hearing none, all those, I would entertain a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda as published.
I'll move that.
Second.
We'll call Glenn and Jeff. Any discussion on approving the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. So that has passed. Next, we move to finance, and I will admit, I just don't recall offhand whether or not the treasurer's report was posted. So I'll see if I can pull that up. But we also have the matter of a donation to Bennington Elementary School to consider, as well as a tractor bid. Sandy, I'm going to look at the tractor bid first. I know you raised the question. The question answered.
I did not.
Okay. Would you? Okay. Let's first deal with the matter of the donation. So we need to formally accept any donation that's made. It's never been an issue. We're always happy to accept donations, but we need to do it officially. So I would understand a motion, please, to accept the $500 donation that's being made to Bennington Elementary School. So, thank you, Glenn. Good. Thank you, Sandy. We have a first and a second. Any discussion on that? What's it for?
Yeah.
Sure. So
It comes in annually from, it's a,
the trust.
yeah,
Trust.
I think it's Bruce
Yeah,
Lieberman.
Dearman.
So it's an annual payment that comes in just for Ben Ellis in general. They get to do with it whatever they care to.
How does that work? I mean, can Pownell apply to any of these grants that go to all the?
It's not a grant.
Donation.
So it's like a bequeath.
Right.
If I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, he's been doing it for years.
Yeah, oh,
It's an independent board, so it's Ben Ellis' own Bennington district. So
Yeah, and we frequently run into individuals or organizations who, for one reason or another, want to make a specific donation to a specific school. We've never said no to those.
Well, no, I wouldn't want you to say no, but I'm just in the time that I've come back, I've never seen any of it ever be donated to Pownell. And my understanding is that Act 46 is well one.
So we're one district for sure. I think the notion is for money to go to a specific building. I've never spoken to the trustees of this annual grant that comes, not grant, this annual bequeathment that comes in. So I don't know sort of what the origins are or what the intent is, other than they have specifically identified this school.
There is Williams, like Williams College.
I was just gonna say, every year we get a donation, Powell gets a donation from Williams that's a significant, even more than this, that is yearly, that just comes to Powell. So we do have an advantage of that as well.
And Renee, can you
I
give
have
me
my
a
back
address or
now.
Hi, Jillian.
Yeah, there must be something on the. So, yeah, I can do that.
What's the other thing?
Oh,
You don't trust your mother. She has a broken shoulder. Would you- So, my goodness, can you believe that? Anyway.
good show. I'm out of here. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a long 2 weeks.
So we had an issue with the posting. So the official warning that went out named the start time at 5 o'clock. It was posted on the website as starting at 5:30. We had discussed 5:30, but because it was warned at 5, as soon as we had quorum after 5, we needed to kick it up. So you haven't missed anything except the approval of the consent agenda, and we moved some things around on the agenda itself. So we're in good shape.
Very quick public comment towards the end, so.
Yeah.
The public might show up at 5:30.
So, and I would just say for any board member, there's always an online option to utilize if they find parts of their body broken, for instance. So, yeah, so,
It's gonna be broken for a while.
so there we have it with, in terms of the donation. So any other discussion on on accepting rather the donation to Bennington Elementary School? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the donation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. I would also ask for a motion, please, to authorize our clerk to send a letter of thanks to the trustees.
Mhm.
Anyone hope to?
I'll make that
Thank
motion.
you, Glenn. Anyone else?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sandy. First and second, any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of authorizing our clerk to send a thank you note, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? There we go. All right, Sandy, would you please share your question with the rest of the board regarding the tractor bid?
Well, it has tractor bid accept report and it has a date dated back from September. So I don't know whether we approve to send this out and you're coming back to give us some of the proposals, or if you're asking for a motion to look into it. So there was a little bit of confusion.
Sure, thank you. So, this time last year, we put it in our budget request, went through all the budgets, got approved. We put out an RFP in the newspaper and individually asked companies to provide pricing for a specifically sized tractor. We have gotten those quotes back. And the recommendation, and my apologies if the dates are kerfluffled.
I don't have any recommendation. I don't have.
And do you want to pass those out?
Yep, sorry.
It didn't make it into the packet. If the invitation is there, but the actual summary and recommendations are not.
So, while you're looking at that, I'm happy to talk about the tractor and what we use it for. The existing tractor is about 20 years old. It last summer when we were spreading wood chips, it broke on a pretty regular basis. It's held together a little bit by duct tape and bubble gum. And some of the things we've been working on in the elementary district specifically is having our guys get training and having our guys perform a lot of the grounds work instead of subcontracting it out. So some of the things we use the tractor for is loading and unloading of salt, bulk materials, deliveries that come to either the Molly Stark shop to get distributed or other buildings district-wide. We unboxed and took a delivery of a whole bunch of books and put them in Beach Street, that kind of thing. All the digging and repairs to playground equipment like the Woodford playground, the installation of the wood chips was all our in-house staff with the tractor. We stump and grub, remove brush. We've been planting trees and shrubs, drainage for utilities, and in the winter, we use it for moving back snowbanks. So the existing tractor has lived its useful life. And we don't have to get pricing on the tractor we would like. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So why do we need a backhoe? What is it specifically that you need a backhoe for that you don't use a bucket loader for?
Sure, and I would defer to the director of the elementary district on what specifically for our schools they use them for. Trenching of utilities comes to mind.
Trench, does that happen? That we don't hire a contractor out that would handle that?
It depends on the scope of work. There's some kind of basic daylighting we can do. Basic running of conduit, when it gets to the bigger projects, like clearly we wouldn't be doing that. Without a contractor with the right sized equipment. Though, for example, one of the things we used the tractor for was the abutting landowner at Monument. That hedgerow, we cleaned all that hedgerow up. There was a old metal fence that we used the tractor to pull out and clean up that brush to be good neighbors. We also used it to spread and pownal the baseball field. I get baseball and softball. I forget which one it is. Kickball, thank you. Kickball. We laid out the ball field last spring and reclayed everything, so it's actually the right dimensions and it's well drained. And so those are some of the things we use it for, but does that answer your questions?
It absolutely does for the bucket loader, absolutely, but certainly not for the backhoe. No, for the bucket loader, because you can do that, all those tasks, if you're good with the bucket loader. And well, the other piece that I have is that we had that old tractor for 20 some odd years. And it only has 1,500 hours on it, which gives you about 6 hours a month. And that's really not, this is a big purchase for such a little amount of time. And then my second question is, how are we moving it from point A to point B? Because if it's a farm tractor going from farmland to farmland, the farmer can move it. If it's a farm tractor that's used for commercial or for non-farm use, it's different. Criteria is different for being on the road.
Right, and I'm sorry, Sandy, I don't have specifics. I can certainly get them and come back to you with it.
Welcome to come in. We'll probably make 2 or 3 announcements as people come in. We put public comment towards the end.
Good, how are you? Good. Good.
Just don't want anybody-
Is this a meeting?
It is.
Yeah,
Okay. I thought you
Just
said,
didn't want anybody feeling bad.
I thought you said
I'm making eye
5:30.
contact, I'll speak.
It was warned at 5, so we started at 5. We moved public comment to the end. So we just done
Okay.
official business,
okay,
nothing major.
okay, all right.
So I can't speak to what the tractor was used for before I started. I've only been here for 3 years, so I don't know how many hours it ran for. I don't know what we used it for. I would surmise they did similar things. But I can tell you some of the repairs over the last year, the brakes have gone out a number of times. The lifting capacity is under 2,000. We would like to have a tractor that can lift 4,000 to manually unload materials. When we move the tractor back and forth, we have a flatbed and the dump trucks. I know we've done it before. I don't know.
CDL. Because this is a good size, 60 horsepower.
Todd Sinclair, the director of the elementary district, does have a CDL, so I would assume that he's the one driving it. Did I answer your question?
Turf tires or ag tires?
So I'm just gonna ask, like, I don't know that the mechanism for getting a piece of equipment from point A to point B, I'm gonna leave up to people who are experts in the field, and I don't know that any of us necessarily qualify as that or would need to know that in order to approve the purchase. Ag tires, turf tires, CDL.
It does matter.
I'm sure it matters, but I'm also certain that the people who are overseeing this, like, know those things and
We're
aren't.
talking an $83,000 or $91,000
Sure.
piece of equipment, so that warrants every question that needs to be asked by any board member.
Okay.
So let's continue with that.
So this is what I would say to that, Glenn. So there's the expenditure for the piece of equipment, and then there's what I will call the minutia of micromanaging our professional staff and how they're going to get a piece of equipment from point A to point B. And I do see those two things as being separate matters.
But I think if we get a, 60 horsepower tractor needing a trailer for, that should be a nice trailer.
So fair enough, but I guess I
And
would also
truck-
say
and
when,
truck to haul it around.
when we order other supplies and other pieces of equipment, I don't ever recall us figuring out how they're going to get from
Because
manufacturer to us.
under $40,000, then it's not the requirement, if I understand Renee correctly, to have this board scrutiny, but over $40,000, it is.
Sure. And I suppose what I was specifically thinking of was when we all sign off on the warrants each month, like we review all of the expenditures and we sign off on that warrant, and never once have we.
Just in
Okay.
comparison, in MAU, we beat a van purchase to death.
Great. That sounds like a very efficient
It
use
was-
of time, but if
it
folks
was-
still have questions, I would say fire away.
Everybody got their questions answered.
Great. Okay, so fire away. Let's go for it.
So for the purposes, is it all right if board members ask any and all question that they would consider? And we come back, the next meeting is the 9th, so not that far off. We come back with answers.
And
It can very well be
I
done.
think we can.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
can.
But I want to make sure everybody's questions get asked.
Fair.
And the other part of this, Chris,
Mhm.
is that I specifically asked before this meeting for
Sure.
these questions. And you specifically stated that I have a lot of questions, and I am very familiar with tractors.
I believe it, Sandy.
And
Great.
so-
I just see them as being
So-
separate from expenditure versus how we get it here. How we get it here is not part of the action we're being asked to do tonight. That was the point of delineation that I was bringing up.
Okay.
I don't want to kill it any further.
Okay.
That's not there. Are you done with yours?
I cannot possibly consider going forward with what we don't have.
Do I get to ask my question?
You too, I'm sorry,
Okay.
please do,
How
Glenn.
many horsepower?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm happy to.
We're gonna want to know that because I've got a 60 horse that will not lift 4,000 counts.
Yeah.
So if yours is going to, I want to see it.
Yeah.
For starters, second, how many implements come with it?
Again, I worked with the director of the elementary district. We developed an RFP.
Yep.
And he drilled down on all those details. I don't know off the
Okay.
top of my head, but I'm happy to give them to you. The
I'd like to see
RFP
it,
is,
given we've got time till the next
sure,
meeting for December 9th, or would you be okay if we just table that to then and we're all?
yeah, that's.
Now we see.
And we can certainly get you a copy of the RFP. It was in the banner with all the details.
Oh, yeah. Don't.
Oh, wait.
Out there.
You shared that.
It's just in the packet.
Respondents.
You shared that, you actually.
Yes, that's in the
did
packet.
share
It's the
that.
respondents and considerable amount of money.
And I certainly understand going to a full-size cab from a Curtis. I get that because if you're gonna use it in the winter, you really do want a nicer cab. So I get that. I even understand the 20 years. It's just the fact that it only has 1,500 hours on it. Just minimal.
So I need someone please to make a motion to table this.
I'll make a mo-
We'll give this one to Sid. She was right there.
Sure.
And with a motion to table, we just have it there. So,
Yeah.
so we will put this off and we'll pick this back up at our December meeting. And, Superintendent Payne, Director Anderson, I don't know if it makes more sense for, Mr. Saklari to also be present to answer some of those questions, but I'll
I
leave it up to folks who.
Yes,
are
I would
interested.
suggest it.
Okay, great. So moving on, so there are few more people in the room, so we'll say it again. So there was a discrepancy in how this was posted at our start time. The formal official legal warning warned this for a 5 o'clock start time. It was posted on our website, however, to start at 5:30. What we've done to both honor how it was warned and to make sure that people who are going to come out don't lose their opportunity is that we modified the agenda to move public comment to the second to last item on our agenda tonight. So we'll move through our business. People will get here when they get here and we'll hold public comment the way that we typically do. So that brings us to, we got off the topic. Has the treasurer's report been published and posted? I just don't recall.
It came in, but it did not get posted.
Okay, so we can resume that in December then. So that pulls us to the first of two agenda items numbered at number 5. So policies, there's nothing from the policy committee, but there was a question regarding our representation to the policy committee. So at one of our more recent meetings, the chair rescinded the appointment of Sandy to the policy committee. The question was then raised is to whether or not via Robert's Rules of Order, the board has the opportunity to overturn that decision. So we turned it over to the attorney, and this is what Dina had to say. I can, what I'll do is submit this for the record to be included probably in the next round of board packet. That's dated November 18th. It's from Dina. It says this. Chris, I have reviewed Robert's Rules of Order in response to the question of whether or not your fellow board members can override your decision to remove a board member from an appointment made solely by the chair. They cannot. The power to appoint, if held solely by the chair, cannot be delegated to or overridden by the board. Quote, if appointment was by the presiding the president acting alone, he may remove or replace committee members by his own act. And the citation for that is 50:14 Robert's Rules of Order, the 2020 edition, which is the revised 12th edition. What can be done theoretically is that there can be a modification by the boards, plural, to have the members from all of the boards be nominated there. But that would not be until the appointment of the sitting members is completed reorganization. Oh, sorry, let me say it again. But that would not be until the appointment of the sitting members is completed reorganization after the annual meeting in March. Since the committee is a committee of all the boards, I believe all need to approve a modification to the bylaws of how a member is appointed to the committee. If a member is nominated and voted to the committee, removal of that member has to be done by a majority vote of the underlying board. So,
I have a point of order.
sure.
It also states, and I can't find it here on my cheat sheet, that the Roberts rules are to be accepted while we do our annual reorganization, and we did not do that. So,
Okay.
just saying.
Okay. So given,
We haven't officially said that we're using them in any capacity. So we're using them, but we didn't actually put them into motion during
Okay.
our March meeting or official meeting.
so thank you for raising that. I guess I would say this, if we're saying that what the legal, and now I'm kind of thinking out loud here. If we're saying that advice doesn't stand because we haven't formally adopted Robert's Rules of Order as our sort of governance model, then I would also say that we can't then turn to Robert's Rules of Order to seek to overturn the chair's decision. Right? It's either we always use Robert's Rules of Order or we never use Robert's Rules of Order. I'm inclined to say for the remainder of this term until we reorganize in March, that we retain the use of Robert's Rules of Order. That's what I would propose. Again, if we're using Robert's Rules of Order, we can just move right ahead. And if we're not using Robert's Rules of Order, the chair gets to decide. So I don't know which way we want to call it necessarily, but we have our legal opinion that we asked for, giving us an answer to the question. So
I think we'd also move based on Robert's Rules of Order as well, and also move as a group to make a motion to forward. No, it's not on the agenda as long as it's done by supermajority, which is 2/3 vote.
to do what?
To appoint somebody. We can make a motion. to
Right.
Move forward as a board. I can make a motion, that motion be seconded. We could debate it, then vote on as long as it passes by 2/3, according to Robert's rule, it would pass.
Except what the lawyer is saying is that this is not a matter of motion by the board. It's a matter of what the bylaws for the SU say. The bylaws for the SU,
Issue.
yes, the bylaws for the supervisory union say that appointments to committees are done by chair only. What she's suggesting is, after the reorganization in March, if people want to bring the matter up for a modification of the bylaws in March, which she's saying every board would have to then approve in order for, I think what you're asking to happen, Jeff, in order for that to happen.
So I mean, what I'd like to ask for you, Chris, I'd like to have you reappoint Sandy to the policy committee, because I don't have room. I'm sure you don't have room. I think most are tapped out, she understands it, to add something new there, especially trying to get all these policies updated and move forward, as it should, because we're open.
Yep.
In pre-merger still, I'd like to just see Sandy do that and try to get through that this year.
So I would
That's
say
my request.
Sure. So I would say this. So I've approached a member of the board, asking the member if they would serve on the policy committee for this board. What they have said is they would like to see how this question plays before they make a decision on my request for them to join that policy committee. So Now that we have an answer, now that the answer is on the record, we'll see what that person has to say, and then if need be, we can revisit it to move forward. Okay. So we're now going to move into the second agenda, number 5, which is operations, and I believe we'll probably turn to Director Anderson for that, or the superintendent maybe.
No notes for operations.
Okay. Great. I think we're going to hear from Director Anderson eventually, because here we have agenda item number 6, which is the SVUESD Best Educational Use of Facilities Update. So there was a meeting that, I'm going to pause for a moment. We have more people in the room. Let me apologize, folks. So we have, this meeting was posted for 2 different start times. So the official legal warning was for 5 o'clock. So as soon as we had quorum, we needed to start at 5 o'clock. Also recognizing we had talked about this being 5:30. At least some of you were here last week and we talked about this being 5:30. It was posted on our website as 5:30. So what we did, so as to accommodate folks we anticipated would be coming for public comment, was to move public comment to the second to last agenda item on the. So we'll still cover all the business. We will still have opportunity for public comment. It's just going to come at a different point in the evening than typically it does. So now getting back to the best educational use of our facilities. Director Anderson, do you have an update for us, please?
I was gonna turn it over to Superintendent Payne.
So we did have a meeting. Our next meeting is, before I forget, is December the 9th. That'll be at 5 o'clock because that will be backed up against a 6 o'clock start for the elementary school board on December the 9th. Our past meeting was pretty much just an update, a review quickly of the building study that's already been in place, including options to be considered. We shared some information with regards to cost per building per student. And the group seemed pretty energized, so much so that they did not want to wait until January, and thus they scheduled a December meeting to get the work started. My hope coming out of that group is that this board will give directions for a working group to be moving forward so they can respond in a timely fashion. We also have work to do in Act 73. A student services audit is floating out there, and the policy committee. So a smaller group that can focus on this work will probably be the ask of this committee.
Okay. Any questions for our superintendent or for Director Anderson? Okay, great. Thank you both. And thanks to our reps who sit on that committee as well. So moving on to agenda item 7, the SVSU report. I'll leave it to any of our 3 reps to give that update, please.
Right over there.
Yes.
Back to
There,
MAU.
last week was back to back with MAU,
Yeah.
best use,
Yes,
and all that. So it's kind of, I'm trying to
it's like a blur.
see if we can come up with a couple of,
They are, sorry.
You have something, Jeff?
No, but for me, they're all working together.
They are.
Oh, so we started the initial primary, looking at the budget with Renee.
Oh.
You did a good job.
And so it's just kind of, planning moving forward of what kind of, the start point for the budget.
We did talk about a number of contingencies coming, with the proposition coming of Act 73 with best use also being up in the air, and not really knowing where to put a point to start the conversation with that many other things.
And, looking at federal funds, so there's a lot of moving pieces, especially this year with the budget. So it could be, it's always been last minute, not knowing what the budget was, but this year it seems more up in the air.
Dr. Abbott gave us a presentation regarding student services and additionally what the implications of Medicaid billing may not have in effect of furthering our budgetary concerns or hopefully alleviating them.
Probably get out last night too from her.
Yeah,
So
just need a little something to get going.
Thanks. It's cold.
Yeah.
It's a little while to start. That's okay.
It's an old car.
Great. Anything else from the SVSU reps? Okay, so let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the superintendent's report. So Superintendent Payne, floor is yours.
Just for our consideration of the chair, as we have an audience and 2 lengthy reports coming, would you entertain the idea that folks could give their public comment and then move along with their business, unless folks would love to stick around for a budget presentation.
It's important. You're shaking your heads. It's important stuff, folks. And it'd be excellent if folks.
I would
folks did.
happily yield my spot in the batting roster.
So let me just pause to consider whether or not that's permissible. We modifications to our agenda are supposed to take place before we kick off our agenda. And then, which we did, and to then switch our agenda around midstream, I don't know. One, I don't know if it's legit. Two, I don't know if it matters right now, given the fact that I'm guessing anyone who is going to be here is here. And other than the fact I would love for more members of the community to be interested in some of the other aspects of education, I guess there would be no reason, there'd be no ill effects from changing it again and making public comment right now. So I guess I'll own it if it's the bad choice to make, but I will entertain a motion to move public comment to right now.
Sure. And since it is 5:40, most, which for 5:30 should be here by now.
I would think so.
And if those people aren't here, I'd be more than happy to write something accepted that way later.
Sure,
Right,
yeah.
go to the board member.
Yeah, like I said, if it's bad, if it's a bad call, I'll own it, but I will accept a motion.
Well, I am the one that made the request.
That's okay. That's okay. So
And I'll make.
I
a
see-
motion.
we'll say Cindy first, we'll say Jeff second to make public comment happen right now. Any further discussion on that? Might have said that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, we're in public comment now. I will just say this about public comments. So taking another look at the public comment policy, it does specifically note that public comment is for residents, meaning residents of a town served by the ESD. So I guess that, as we've always done, as probably all of you have experienced, like we allow the time for public comment to be made. I think the only restriction we're going to put on that, just to be in keeping with the policy, is if you don't live in one of the towns served by the ESD, public comment is not your opportunity. But for anyone else, please. So the floor is open, and if anyone would like to make public comments, Mr. Norm LeBlanc, sir.
Hello, and I'm very happy that you said you own that decision. I think it was horrible decision that you made, and thank you, Superintendent, for allowing us. We've been very sinister looking as the board. As of last month, we got prolonged, through a terrible technicality, so people couldn't come and Zoom. The opportunity was here. We were here. That should have been allowed as meetings in my government institution are warned. Zoom is an add-on. The billing is the meeting, right? You lucky to come there, you can get there. I want to speak loud enough so everybody hears me, especially the folks at home. I think it was a horrible decision when you went to the second thing to move it. It's very, very crooked seeming of warning and meeting, and it's moving around on a policy or a issue that is being very vocal by some, and just usually more in favor of the pledge than against. But we keep having this discussion. So when it got moved, it seems very fishy. Now, again, I understand business. It was warned. We got to move on. But what the motion should have been directly after whatever issue ended after 5:30, we would take up public comment in order to not write us. And that I will yield the floor. Thank you.
Okay. So
I'll take responsibility.
no, thank you. It's not necessary, Superintendent Payne. So just a bit of clarity. So
I don't need any clarity.
So
I don't really respect not to have any clarity.
So I'll offer it for anyone who is unclear based on what the comments just made were. The current law states that there does need to be a Zoom option warned. And maybe it exists, maybe it's not required for other governmental functions. It is required for this board and other school boards. So if a meeting is warned to have a Zoom option, and then that option is not present at the time we're supposed to have a meeting, we're not supposed to have a meeting. And it was hugely inconvenient for everyone who was there at that time, for everyone who's here again tonight. So it's no good, but it happened, and it was the legal and right thing to do. So I'll put that out there. Also, I'll just say this to refresh people's memory. This board has acted twice to say that the Pledge of Allegiance is going to happen every day in school prior to when classes begin. That has been for a year now. That has been what's been in place. And I see people start shaking their heads, and they can certainly shake their heads. I do know that one of the arguments that has been made is not that it's pro-pledge or anti-pledge. It's pledge as per this board's directive, or pledge when other members of the staff want it to happen, right? This has been a question of some employees not having it be the way they want to and continuing to make an issue of it. That has been the issue. So I offer that for some clarity, and the floor is open for any other public comment, please. Okay, yes, yeah, please.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sarah Beth Ward, Bennington.
Thank you.
So the pledge it's being said in every school right now?
No, it's not.
It's not.
So,
So let me just, so
please.
in the schools that is being said at, is it over the loudspeaker?
So I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
So, and I will also just clarify, it's being said in each elementary school. This board only oversees the elementary.
okay, the elementary schools. So you don't know if it's being said over the loudspeaker or not.
I don't.
So if a teacher decides they do not want to say the pledge in their classroom, none of the kids get to say it.
I don't know that that's true either.
Point of,
Is that true?
no, you're having a discussion.
Thank you, Sandy. You're at
And
100% correct.
This is not on
Yes.
this agenda.
Yeah, what you are absolutely correct, Sandy. So what Sandy's pointing out, one is that public comment is not public conversation necessarily. The chair has taken some liberties from time to time to help clarify points, particularly as we discuss this topic again. And I guess I'll leave it at that because it's not warned and it's not public comment and it's not warned as a topic for conversation. So thank you for that point, Sandy. Yes.
Can I just finish? So
Yes.
like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went into one of the elementary schools. They were invited, the American Legion Auxiliary was invited in to do a folding for the fourth graders. I went. It was amazing. The kids were incredible. They had incredible questions that they asked. They were so respectful. They were so into this. I don't understand about the flag, like why people are so afraid of the flag. There was 2 veterans that were there that folded the flag. At the end, one fourth grader got up, stood in front of one of the veterans, saluted him. The veteran started crying. Like, I don't understand. What is the big deal about saying the Pledge of Allegiance? We grew up with it. My kids grew up with it. What is the big deal? And I don't understand why it can't be said after school starts, like after the bell rings or whatever. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know, I subbed for a year during COVID at North Bennington School. The teachers have a lot to do in the morning. And I think somebody brought that up before. You have to sign the kids in, attendance. You have to see who wants lunch, who wants breakfast, you know, where to put their folders. They can't get it all done before the bell rings. It's impossible. So I just think let the teachers say it when they want to say it. It should be done over the loudspeaker so that all the kids can say it and not just certain kids.
Thank you.
That's what I have to say.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Darlene Cum from Shasbury.
Hi.
And I'm just saying that I understood all schools were given direction to say the pledge. And I am concerned to hear that Shasbury Elementary School doesn't have that opportunity for all. That's my comment.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment this evening? Yes, hello.
I'm Emma Blank Peters, and I go back to the Shasbury School. We keep coming here and complaining about this, but you're not doing anything about it.
Yes.
You know, and that bothers me. You are elected by us, you know, to do what we ask. You know, we've asked to have this done, but you're not overseeing it. When you tell us that you don't know if they're saying it, that you should be in that school to see that they are saying it. That's your job, you know, and you should care. And if Shasbury's not doing it, then find out who isn't doing it and address it. This has gone on way too long. Do you know what our country is like right now? Everybody should be proud to get up and say the pledge, okay? We should be teaching our kids to be proud of where they live. And I don't feel you as a board that I'm electing is doing your job. Because we came here a week ago, sat here for a half an hour, came in, sat again, and no meeting. And then we come back today and you still don't know what they're doing it. That's your answer a few minutes ago. I don't know. That is not an answer. That's all I have to
Thank you.
say.
So point of clarity, it's not that we don't know that it's happening. The question was, is it happening over the loudspeaker? That was what my answer was to. Yes, ma'am, please.
So Kelly Carroll Bennington. First of all, thank you for listening to us tonight. But I do have to say, I'm a little bit concerned because I listened to you talk about rearranging the agenda and wanting public participation. And I come to these meetings and I see public participation, but just in a one-way conversation. I really honestly believe it's not just one or two personnel complaining about process and policies and convenience. I think there's a lot of concern in the community on both sides. I personally support the Pledge of Allegiance. I think that we need to start very, young with our youth on educating, especially on history, so that we can engage and embrace the strong parts and learn from the not so good parts. But I think that saying the Pledge of Allegiance has a lot to do with that. And I look around the room and I see a lot of people, and I know a lot of people are very interested that couldn't be here tonight because it keeps changing and it is Thanksgiving weekend. So I just have one question for you. Specifically, what is it going to take to get the Pledge of Allegiance on as an agenda item for discussion? Because these people come out all the time and these educators are concerned enough, and you're getting public participation. So what's it going to take to get it on the agenda?
Thank you. Hi, Cindy. You're not a member of the public. You can talk.
Can I have clarification quickly? I'm a resident of Arlington. Does that mean I'm not, that's citizen?
So all of a sudden I can't speak, even though I've been speaking for over a year.
Sure.
I come to every single one of these board meetings. You know I do.
I know.
No matter what is being discussed, I come to every single one. And now all of a sudden I can't speak.
So
Where's this coming from? It's been over a year. I've spoken almost every single one.
So let me,
Sorry, I don't.
so let me, again, take a point of privilege as the chair. It was reviewing the public comment policy, which has been in the books forever, that I realized that public comment, as per policy, is designed for residents. Yes, sometimes it's been as in your role as a union person, sometimes it's been as a teacher in the school. If you wish to communicate with the board as a union person, there are contractual avenues for that to happen. If you wish to speak to the board as an employee, there are personnel policies how that can be. But in terms of speaking as a member of the public, the policy is very clear. And again, it's been that way forever. It was just my fault for not being as familiar with that particular detail as I should have been, that has allowed non-residents to participate in public comment.
It all just suits your purpose. That was why.
Correct.
Well, it's also in policy, Kathy. And again,
You're wishy-washy with a lot.
there are union ways,
You're very wishy-washy. I apologize.
Well, I think it's the same.
there are union tracks and there are personnel policy avenues you can take for this.
We've had people from North Bennington, if they were here talking, we had to have them not talk because they don't vote on the
There's
SVUESD.
many people.
I know.
Yep, you're absolutely right. There were many people who were here for public comment, and that was the error of the chair to allow people who didn't live here to have the conversation.
Could somebody else here read what I was going to read then?
I mean, you can ask anyone. You can ask
Would you
anyone.
like to read my speech that I was going to read here, since I'm not allowed to anymore?
I will.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You
No,
say it.
go ahead. You got your glasses on. I don't.
What if it could?
Thank you. This whole thing? Yeah, it's the whole page.
Oh.
It's just the first page. I have all the speeches from every single time I spoke in here. So it's just this page.
Okay. The Pledge of Allegiance literally takes only 13 seconds to say, so no academic time is being used if a classroom chooses to participate in this practice. This is also the time it would take to put this on the agenda to discuss. We need to allow all students this opportunity, and this cannot happen with the way that this practice is worded right now, before classes begin, due to the fact that not all students are in school before classes begin. I am asking the wording of this practice be changed to not during academics. This cannot happen unless the practice of the pledge gets put on the agenda for the next meeting. It is obvious by the attendance of the board meetings for the last 2 months that this is a topic that needs to be further discussed. Just to give everyone an idea of how much this topic still needs to be discussed, recently a banner showed up hanging in the back of Shaftesbury's resident yard that faces the Shaftesbury School playground. The banner states, "I pledge allegiance to the flag" on it. When the students first saw this, they ran and stopped, and with a hand over their heart, about 8 students stood there with no prompting at all and said the Pledge of Allegiance all on their own. The board's chair's statement during the last meeting about not hearing anything about this topic, except from Mrs. Kenyon and I, was incorrect. The board has received at least 6 emails this summer during the months of June and July about the practice of the Pledge of Allegiance. All 6 were Shaftesbury teachers, and 5 of the 6 were Shaftesbury community members and had children go through Shaftesbury Elementary School. All of these emails were asked for the wording of the practice to be changed, so all Shaftesbury students have the opportunity to say the Pledge of Allegiance if they choose to. I also know that more emails were sent to the board in the last month, for and against the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, which again should tell the board chair that this topic needs to be on the agenda for the next meeting. During the last board meeting, a Shaftesbury resident brought up the atmosphere change at Shaftesbury School, and he is accurate. Shaftesbury is still an amazing community, and Shaftesbury Elementary School is still a wonderful place to learn, but there is tension in the air since Mrs. Kenyon and I were told by our administrators that we are not allowed to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to read that again. The administrator told them they were not allowed to say the Pledge of Allegiance. This tension is not just among the few staff, but many. This is not the type of atmosphere that keeps amazing teachers in a school district. Again, during a past board meeting, it was stated by Sandy Foster that this practice can be revisited if need be. Well, it's time and the practice of the Pledge of Allegiance need to be added to the agenda.
Anyone else public comment? Very.
So these teachers that work in the school system where this is going on are not allowed to speak. I understand what you said, but I'm having a hard time.
Again,
I'm having a hard time with that.
so, I mean, I would say the clarity's been offered once, and because it was the privilege of the chair to even do that, we'll leave it at that. Corinne, yes, please.
Well, once again, going back to, I wasn't on the board in April when this room was filled. I was here as a resident of Shaftesbury. I'm on the board now representing Shaftesbury. I have numerous people come to me about the Pledge of Allegiance thing, the post office, the store, out walking my dog, whatever, people calling me. They really want to see this back on the agenda, and it was said in the April meeting, and that's kind of what I think everybody felt comfortable with. It was said that we would revisit it if there was an issue. Clearly, there's an issue. You can walk around the block in Shaftesbury, and any resident up there will stop you and talk to you about this. It's causing disconcern in the whole hood. And, some people are for it, some people are against it, but the wording needs to be changed. And as a board, we were told that it would be revisited if there was an issue. We've been back here, I don't know how many months now. The Pledge of Allegiance continues to come up. I think it needs to get on the agenda. We need to clarify it so that everybody's comfortable with it. And let's move forward. And you're right, you said one other time yourself, we spent a lot of time on the Pledge of Allegiance. We have, but we're at the point now where it's time for it to be on the agenda. We owe it to our community, to our teachers, and to everybody to clarify what's going on with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll make the motion to put it on the next agenda.
I'll second it.
So let's,
Just first and second, so we have to act on it.
well, except if the motion is made, if the motion is made out of order in the first place, then it's not a matter of acting on the motion. In that the agenda is not set by vote of this board. It's not. And
Let's make a motion to change that too.
Well, that is a Robert's Rules of Order thing. That, I agree. Okay. So again, if we're using Robert's Rules of Order from the giddy up, it's improper to bring in a letter to say we're not using Robert's Rules of Order. If we are no longer using Robert's Rules of Order, here's the issue. Here's the issue with this. Corinne, you said it yourself, and this has to be the last bit because it's not warned and we should not be discussing it. Corinne, you said we need to find a solution that makes everyone happy, and that solution does not exist.
No.
That solution does not exist. So we need to move on with our agenda, please.
Wait a minute. You said it's not on the agenda, so we can't discuss it.
Yes.
And I'm asking for it to be on the agenda so
Right.
we can discuss it.
Right.
You know, these people don't need to be coming back.
You want to clarify that you want that on next month's agenda?
Yes, next month's agenda.
I hear, right, but the motion is out of order in itself because Robert's Rules of Order does not provide for the agenda to be set by vote of the board.
Who sets it?
The chair does.
That's the issue bylaws.
Okay.
That's the same problem we just ran into before.
So moving on to superintendent's report, which is the first agenda, the first item under section 8 is student services presentation, which I believe brings us to Dr. Abbott.
Can I just point of clarification? I'm sorry. The resident who read the statement into the record, your name again, please?
Sarah Bell,
Sarah, and you are a resident of what town?
Bennington.
May I follow up with you in the next couple of days? That's all. Okay.
Can I just say one thing?
One thing briefly, please.
Okay, it's brief. I have to address this to you, okay? Because you seem totally against this and not helping to support people in this community that want to see this set. Obviously, I don't know if you were in the military or not. This is a big issue. And our country needs this right now. And you at every meeting seem to stall this for some reason. I don't know, because you can put it on the agenda and you choose not to. And I want an answer from you. Why? What is your reason that you don't want to settle this?
Actually, I'd like the superintendent's notion of asking for follow-up at the end, because this isn't warned, because we should not be getting into this, but I would be happy to have that conversation. I'd be happy to.
Post meeting.
Post meeting, yeah, not during the meeting because it's not proper given what we have posted in the agenda. If you'd like to hang out until the end, if you'd like to leave me your phone number, however you'd like to do that, but I would very much enjoy having that conversation. Okay, so third time's the charm. We move to the student services presentation, which is quite important because it actually affects the well-being of our students and the education they receive and how they're going to do in the long run. It'd be great if folks stuck around.
All right, is my screen sharing working okay?
It is. Thank you, Dr. Abbott.
Okay, wonderful.
Hi, folks. Have a nice Thanksgiving. Thank you very much.
All right, so tonight, I have a presentation on Act 73. In particular, the state of special education delivery in Vermont and how.
Kate, wait one moment, please.
Yeah. Sorry,
Sure.
there were just people leaving and I didn't want us to miss any of it. It's really important and I wish folks would stick around. They're choosing not to. I guess that's their decision.
All right, so
Okay.
let me do the proper introduction.
Thank you.
Dr. Kate Abbott, remote. I appreciate her being available this evening for the reschedule. Some of you have seen this, so I apologize, but she is here to speak about a state, the Vermont Agency of Education's report of the state of special education. This is her first presentation in a series of 2, as she and I have also been working with another person to do a audit of the SVSU, and we will be bringing that report back to this board in the future. So Dr. Kate Abbott, thank you for being with us this evening.
Yes, thanks for having me. So this report really covers Act 73 from the perspective of special education. And like Superintendent Payne shared, this is a state report of the state, not the state of Bennington. It's the state of Vermont and how special education is delivered. So we're going to hear a little bit about an overview of Act 73, and specifically
one of the first actions of Act 73 was a legislative report from the Agency of Education on the stated delivery of special education. And that is all of the content for tonight. So we'll hear a little bit about the current landscape of education and special education in Vermont, and then considerations and next steps. So what is Act 73? You've heard a lot about Act 73, and some aspects of the bill are highlighted in the news. In particular, Act 73 also addresses special education in terms of how programs are delivered, what's currently offered, and how programs are financed. So one of the very first components of the bill included a report requested by the Agency of Education about what the current state of services and delivery of those services and cost for those services were in the state of Vermont compared to other states around the country. So Act 73 in special education. Throughout the process of Act 73 becoming law, it's clear that the legislature is very concerned about the rising cost of special education over time. A special education report outlining the factors contributing to growth in extraordinary special education reimbursement costs was delivered on September 26th. So this report addresses the drivers of the extraordinary expenditures in special education. Extraordinary costs in special education are defined by the Agency of Education as a threshold for any individual student's educational programming that costs more than $65,000. Actually, with inflation, it's closer to $67,000 this year, and I'm sure Renee can give us the exact dollar amount. But when we're talking about extraordinary costs, the definition of that is when one child's program costs more than $67,000. For example, the majority of those situations are for students that are placed out of our district because they incur not just out of district tuition costs, they also incur special education transportation costs, and specialized services and programs. So this is really for children that have complex needs. Across the state of Vermont, the educational landscape shows that we have a declining total student population. So that blue line on the chart is our total enrollment over the course of since 2018 till now. But you'll see that red line, that is our percentage of students in the state of Vermont that have disabilities. So while our total population is declining over time, the rates or proportion of the students that have disabilities is actually increasing. In this slide, you'll see some of the more complex types of disabilities that we serve, including autism, emotional disturbance, and other health impairment. These three categories are primarily the drivers for extraordinary costs because these types of disabilities are very complex to meet. So you'll see in this green line here on top, other health impairment and emotional disturbance have had a slight increase. Actually, other health impairment hasn't really changed tremendously. However, the rate at which Vermont identifies children as having an other health impairment is significantly higher than other states. And autism rates have increased by 33% since 2018-19 school year till 2025. And that's not just a Vermont situation, that's across the country. Autism rates are increasing. So in this report, the Agency of Education has taken a look at how Vermont compares to similarly situated states in the nation, and they've selected Wyoming and North Dakota as two similar demographics with similar population numbers, as well as comparing Vermont to the nation in how we deliver and how we identify different disabilities and deliver services for those. So this chart talks a little bit about the first category, which is children that have emotional disturbance. And you'll see compared to our other similar states that have similar populations, Wyoming and North Dakota, Vermont identifies a much higher rate of children comparatively to those other states. So over 2,000 children in Vermont compared to just under 600 in Wyoming and 1,000 in North Dakota. However, if you look at the next line, it talks about how we provide and deliver services to learners with emotional disturbance in Vermont. And for the majority of our learners, 62%, we deliver education in the general education setting 80% or more of the school day. And when you look at the national percentage, Vermont does a better job including our learners with disabilities in the general education setting. But down below, you'll notice there's two other types of settings that we deliver services in. A separate class for part of the day or a separate class for the majority of the day that is taught by a special education teacher, and or a separate school. So the separate school is where we're incurring, children have to leave their home community and travel on a bus to another town or another state to receive education. Vermont's rate of providing education in separate schools for children that have emotional disturbances is 19.6%, which is much higher than the national percentage, which is 10%, and other similarly situated states such as Wyoming and North Dakota at 4% or less than 2%. So you can see that separate school environment is used more often in Vermont than in other similarly situated states. When we look at autism, our rates of autism, like I said, have increased over the past 5 years as they have in other across the country. And our rates of autism are pretty similar to other similarly sized states. So Vermont and Wyoming and North Dakota have similar rates of identification of autism. When we look at inside services provided inside the regular educational environment, 80% or more of the school day, Vermont is very inclusive. Again, we serve over 63% of our students with autism in general education settings, compared to the national rate of 40%, or the state rates of Wyoming or North Dakota of just about 51%. So we are very inclusive. However, the same trend holds true with children with autism compared to children with emotional disturbance. Vermont places children in separate schools outside their home community at higher rates than the national average and similarly situated states. So 9% in Vermont compared to 5.5% or 5.8% in the nation, and under 2% in similar demographic states. So, in summary, this finding basically states that we wonder, the report summarizes that Vermont has a lot of inclusion, and then we often have a lot of out-of-district placements in private or separate schools. And the question was raised, do we have enough resources and a continuum of services to provide those services in the child's home school and make sure they're served well in their home communities? And that's the question raised by the report. And secondarily, if we expand that continuum of services, there will be a cost containment measure, because when you place children outside their home community, you incur the cost of transportation and tuition, and our transportation costs, especially here, can be a significant portion of that cost. So talking about the cost of special education, in the report, the agency discusses how the total cost of education has increased over time. The driver of the cost increases in special education is the cost associated with educating students in separate schools. Essentially, that extraordinary cost, that over $67,000, is the vast majority of the percentage of increase that we've seen. So while the total special education annual growth for the total amount of all special education costs is only about 8.5%, the increases in extraordinary costs are almost 18%, and that's been year over year. So that extraordinary cost is driving the total cost of increases in special education across the state. Another financial implication in this report from the Agency of Education relates to Medicaid billing. Medicaid reinvestment funds in our district total around last fiscal year we had or this fiscal year, we have $836,000 of Medicaid reinvestment funds that we use towards really critical services such as hearing and vision screenings, mental health services, behavioral services for children. And what we have read in this report and what is happening right now is that there's going to be a pretty significant change in how Medicaid is billed, how we access those funds, as well as there will be a change in how those funds are allocated. So we aren't sure how the allocation is going to change at this point, but they are considering a redistribution of the funds, and they're definitely moving to what's called electronic health records billing, and we're seeing some of those changes right now. We received an email this week that we have to manually enter almost 800 individual codes in order to bill down Medicaid funds. So we're working through that now, and there will be a new electronic system that the state is identifying at this point, and that system will be used as supposedly by July 1st to change how we bill Medicaid. We'll also be billing 504 plans as part of this change, which will be a new practice for our district. So there are a lot of changes in store, and to prepare for the new changes in store with this legislation, we are conducting an internal audit with Dr. Megan Roy to audit how we deliver special education supports and services in Southwest Vermont, with an eye for positioning ourselves well for navigating the changes in store for the state. So we are attending all opportunities from AOE to learn more about how this Act 73 is rolling out, and we will keep the board in the loop as we learn about what these changes will look like. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Dr. Abbott, a couple quick questions. Can you say more, please, about what the move to electronic health records billing, what will that mean in practicality, please?
So it's going to be a time sampling methodology, and the trickiest thing to start with will be moving a district of our size, because we do rely on it's over $750,000 of Medicaid reinvestment funds that we use for our budgetary processes each year to deliver direct services to kiddos. So when we talk about that shift, the state hasn't identified what software they're going to use for the electronic health records billing, and it's going to be different than what we currently use. So to take a system of our size and move it to a completely new technology in the span of less than 6 months it will be a challenge that we'll have to address, and we aren't sure exactly what it's going to look like. So yeah, we'll know more when we know it'll be time sampling based, but we aren't sure beyond that.
So we'll add it to the growing list of things that we're not quite sure what they're going to look like in a few years. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And one question too, Kate. Is it going to follow the same as, like, I know Medicaid right now is like verification, visit verification. Are we going to follow the same thing in the district? Because in the public, we have to do that. It's like point of service.
That's probably,
Is that
I
still
don't
to
think
be
any,
determined?
yeah, that's a great question. I don't think there's going to be any fewer requirements. I think it's going to be different.
More.
But
Okay.
as we because we'll still need scripts, we'll still need Medicaid, consent to bill Medicaid, we'll still need to have documentation of our IP processes and 504 processes. But you raise a great question, and as soon as we see it in real life, we will share what that looks like with you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Abbott?
Mine's a quick one, and I neglected to ask this the other night. Do you see any ceilings being put on costs?
Do I see any ceilings? I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, ceilings, like right now you're billing $85 for something. Do you see them knocking it to 65 and saying that's all you're getting?
So the way the state works the extraordinary costs is everything over the $67,000 that one individual child's education costs. They give us extraordinary reimbursement aid, where they give us 95% back of the cost of that educational placement over the $67,000. So there's what this bill kind of entails is that by changing cost structure and how they reimburse us, that's one component of the bill about how to have districts change how they approach delivery of service. So, yeah.
Perfect. Great answer, and thank you.
At one of our other meetings, we talked about how you were going to share with us how our district compared with the state totals. And I'm wondering if you believe that, and please don't, I'm not asking for an answer now, but if you could look into, is are the numbers increasing because we have better screening or earlier screening? Is it because we now have pre-K 3 and 4, where before maybe we didn't include those younger students? And then how many children graduate, move forward, come out of 504 or an IEP? And
all of
I'm
those
not
are,
asking you to answer, I
Yeah.
just, to give me that, but if you could share when you share with us how our EUD is doing compared to state.
So
Kate,
those are
our
excellent questions.
plan is to come back in January and talk about and we can answer, we've previewed the
Oh,
report.
you did.
We can answer that question. I would just ask that we make sure we have it in a presentation format so folks can see it. And we have a request from the board to share that in advance so folks can have their questions. So we're working on that as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Abbott? Great. Thank you, Dr. Abbott.
Thank you so much.
Superintendent Payne, still your show.
Easiest item of the evening, Beth Ward, interim assistant superintendent, is with us this evening. Started the year as principal at Pownell, continues to support the school moving forward. I can do the bio really quickly. She's been at Pownell for a couple of years. Prior to that, she was in Texas as a principal, assistant principal, and teacher. But she is a native of the area. She's a proud graduate of Williams College and Drury High School in North Adams, where she grew up. So I am so very thankful for the board's support and having her in place. She's been a huge help just a few weeks on the job. So thank you to Dr. Miss.
Can't get you on screen.
Good.
I tried.
And then our FY27 budget review, which is still under the superintendent's report.
And I have brought Renee Gordon, and I have handouts for folks. Folks who've worked with this in the past. I am going to take full responsibility for the likeness of the handout. All of the documentation is still available for those of you who like to dive deep into line by line. There should be leftovers too for audience members. I asked Renee because I've sat in budget meetings for over 10 years. I thought it would be helpful, since this is your first glance, is that you have a page. Your first page is by department, so it allows you to see your entire grand total in one page. I know folks have seen more detail, and like I said, we provide that as well. The second is an executive summary by Renee that kind of points you in the direction of like, hey, these are your drivers of either costs going up or going down, if that helps folks kind of get to the points in the budget they want to see. And then the last pages are FTEs that would be impacted under this board's direction for the ESD. So I will stop talking because that's the depth of my knowledge at this point, and I will let Renee walk you through her presentation.
Okay, thank you. So as some of you who sit on the SU board already have heard me say, we know that we have our collective bargaining agreements that are currently being negotiated. So our biggest cost drivers, as you all are aware, are our staff, right? So salaries and benefits. I have a lot to kind of point out tonight about salaries and benefits lines here, because there's a lot going on, and these are your biggest cost drivers. So we do have a factor built in for potential salary grid adjustments, but there is a lot of additional going on here as well. So that's why I thought tonight it might be good for you folks to just get a quick look at this before we have all of the information coming out from the state in the next coming weeks, probably. We do have some grant funding that is supporting FTEs, a number of which are in the elementary schools. that grant funding is expiring June 30th. So the administrators of those buildings with those staff have asked that the board consider including them. So this draft that you have in front of you does include new FTEs. So these are identified on the second page under the budget highlights. But they include a licensed clinical social worker at Benel, a behavior coach also at Benel, a behavior coach at Molly, and a math coach in Pownell. So all of these currently are funded right now through Title I school improvement grants. We have had schools and comprehensive supports. This is year 3 of a 3-year grant cycle. We do not know if any of these schools will be identified again for comprehensive supports. I have pushed on the AOE a little bit to see if they could do their data reviews and let us know if that's the case, because if there is going to be a continuation of these funds, we wouldn't have to put them into local budgets right now. The answer that I got back is they probably won't have that work done until January, which is probably going to be almost too late for us to make any adjustments. So that being said, those 4 FTEs have been included in this draft. The math coach in Pownell is actually budget neutral, however, because there was a vacant classroom teacher that has been carried in the budget. Based on the way things are looking for student counts next year, that classroom teacher won't be needed. So we've basically repurposed that to become the math coach or math teacher in Pownell. A couple other asks, not related to grant funds, a math teacher at Monument. So that 1.0 has been included in this budget draft. The current library media specialist that we have serving at Monument is also at a 0.5. It was in the budget at a 0.4, so the request was to keep that position at a 0.5. I did note today that we didn't actually quite have everything right with that position. So technically this draft budget you have before you is about $40,000 short. But we can make that up, and I'll get it corrected when we look at this again next month. And then there was one other ask to have a clinician in Pownell for 2 days a week. So I have included a 0.4 FTE for that. So those are the changes with the FTEs. Now, as part of that, many of these administrators did give up some contracted service funding that they had for mental health. That comes to a cost of about $62,000. So I have pulled those funds out to help kind of offset what the asks were for adding the FTEs. A couple other things to note. Our health insurance rates have been proposed by VHI, the Vermont Education Health Initiative. Those are currently with the Department of Federal Regulation. And hopefully we will know if they are going to improve those rates or not. But for the first time in the last couple of years, they're only single-digit increase in health insurance premiums. So we're carrying that in the budget right now at 8%. Got an email just a couple hours ago that VI has also submitted dental insurance rates, which for us have been flat for the last several years. This year, it's between 0 and 15%, and they will notify us next week. They will notify SUs and SDs next week as to who's been targeted for what increases. So the budget that you have before you right now has dental as flat, but we could be looking at an uptick of up to 15%. Those couple other things to mention here. So those salaries and benefits, the contracted service, as I had mentioned, we were carving out $62,000 of that for those mental health services to kind of offset the FTEs. There were a couple of other lines that haven't been used or have been repurposed. So we've shuffled those around. And Holly's really trying to level fund as much as she can with her contracted services and operations budget. So you can see that's contributing to the slight declines on those next two lines. The transportation line, this is really just funding field trips and our after-school transportation. So what's happening now with our 21st Century Grant, all of the costs are being incurred at the SU level, but we have matching funds required. So the money that's here does essentially pay the bill that's being incurred. So the SU is fronting the money, and then we're recouping, basically billing the district to recoup those funds. So while you're not actually seeing the expense in that line, because I'm billing for our staff as well, it's coming out of several different lines. The actual cost is going to appear and does appear in FY 25 in the operations line. The tuition line is just a reclassification of out of district tuition. We pulled that out of the student services budget in the SU, put it in here based on student eligibility. Minor tweaks to supplies and equipment. The equipment line with the $50,000 there, Holly is looking to look at some fuel efficient and or just energy efficient vehicles to basically get our maintenance staff around from building to building, from campus to campus. If there's a service call, right now they're driving the big dump trucks, which are not necessarily fuel efficient. Pickup truck, dump truck. So she'd like to look at something that's much more economical instead of driving those big vehicles. So that was the ask there. Assessments, I just have that thrown in at a flat 5% increase right now. I'm just starting to look at assessments through the SU lens. Hopefully that will come down, but I don't have those numbers refined just yet. Debt service, this is just our aging or amortization schedule on the bond. So our interest payment is coming down slightly for next year. And on the contingency line, we did reduce that, if you recall, this current year to basically try to save some dollars. I bumped that back up to where we had been budgeting it at the 210. And then the transfer line, given that we have quite a bit of money in the reserve accounts, I did not put that $130,000 back in. So on the second page, I listed all of our reserve account balances. And what we had been doing for not this current year, but previous years. We were putting $130,000 in the SVUESD capital reserve account, but we did pull that out of this year's budget. So we will not have that line increase by 130, nor do I have it in, at least at this point, for next year. And again, just with the uncertainty of Act 73, what are our districts going to look like? We have all these funds sitting there now. If we're going to be combined with other districts, do we want to start considering spending these down before we end up in a much larger entity? And then the FTEs, I tried to just identify what the requests are that have a budgetary impact. So that's what the shading represents. And then at the bottom, the local paras, if you know, I have labeled there as SVSU. So these technically are SVSU employees. However, they are directly assessed to the Union Elementary District because they are serving within your schools. So sorry to rush, but to try to keep it concise as much as I could. I'm happy to answer.
I'd ask
questions.
one question.
Okay.
For the proposed budget increases for health and the dental, does that going to affect in 26 or for 27?
It will be July 1 of 26, so it will be this.
So what's hard, and I think, from, as a spouse of somebody who works in a school district, is your open enrollment is before we actually know what the rate increases are. So like if I have a benefit at work, my wife has a benefit, or if somebody is in district, you can't compare apples to apples. My benefits are set. We know what they are, but we're still unsure of what the rate increases are. Which, how do you do open enrollment in December? We don't know those
Our open enrollment is actually in May.
in May. So these would go in effect starting June.
It'll be July 1. Open enrollment happens
Okay.
in May for enrollment changes as of July 1.
people
Then
who have-
when the rates go into
So
effect.
like, I just think like myself, it's like, so it's just like, they don't line up with what we're being asked to do as.
Our deductibles don't line up.
Or the,
Those are on
the
the
rate
calendar
increase,
year.
I know what my rates are, for my work
Mm-mm.
for next year, because I just got them, so they're set.
We will know in a few weeks once DFR actually votes on them.
Open enrollment starts for me, it closes in 2 weeks. Okay.
I had one little contrast item. You sprinkled some good news in SVSU and that you're able to transfer some employees out of full retirement back to Beamers. Is there any sort of case of that happening here for the?
All of the grant stuff happens at the SCU level. So we don't see that. I mean, you will see some of it in the home assessments, right? So the shifts that we've proposed at the SU level of pulling some of those early education staff out of title and into local, you'll end up seeing that in your assessment for the education.
It's basically a hard no.
In a nice.
Which
way.
is fine.
In a nice way. So town assessments are also happening for property. I know for Pownell, I think they're supposed to be done by.
Mine's starting in Shasbury.
So I'm wondering the impact on these new assessments, or maybe you saw no impact or a decrease.
I don't think you'll see anything until I think it's 26, 27, because they have to all Shasbury, they're North Shasbury already, and that's it.
So you'll actually see that in the common level of appraisal, but it's going to be in lag, right? So the common level of appraisal letters that we will be getting, they come out mid to late December. It will have been property valuation and sales data from the prior year. So it's always a year in lag. But yes, at all of our towns within our union here are well below market value. So our CLAs are very, very low. The legislature did introduce a statewide adjustment to kind of bring that up, hopefully, to kind of minimize the impact of what CLA is, but it factors in the equation above, so it technically factors out too, so it really doesn't have any impact, but that's just.
Renee's referencing the worksheet she built for me to explain why there's two factors in the formula, basically to cancel each other out.
And also this math teacher at Monument is a new math teacher. We have some schools that don't have a math teacher. Is that just the administration just didn't feel it was necessary?
So I think where you're seeing those are where those schools may have had supports previously supported through grants. And as those grant funds are, being stretched thinner and the student populations are shifting, some of the more needy schools are still getting those supports as that's where the resources have to be directed. Monument, they're seeing great impact with the little bit of math support that they're getting through title right now. She wants to continue that trajectory, so that's why she asked for that FTE.
So Director Gordon, what next steps do you anticipate and what do you need from the board?
If there's any directive you would like to give me, what you would like to see next time around. Otherwise, it'll be pretty much the same budget, just with additional information. We will have the December 1st letter coming out from the tax commissioner, which will have the recommendation of what the homestead property yield is. That'll really be the factor as to what's going to happen with our projected tax rates. We did get our first pass at long-term weighted average daily membership yesterday. As we know, enrollment's going down, so our numbers are going down, which is also going to make our, tax rates go up. So not a lot of things working in our favor. So I guess, it just ends up what the board is comfortable with. And then, of course, hopefully the next draft, I'll have a better idea as to what we're looking at for the SU assessment, so I can refine that line.
So we can anticipate that at our next meeting, which is like 2 weeks from tonight, we'll have the December 1st information in there. We'll have the other information just described. So maybe I would suggest we take a look at that in 2 weeks, and then we figure out what our next steps are from there. To the December 1st letter, hopefully you all check your VSBA emails, but the VSBA is running a webinar on the 9th, December 9th, about make some sense of the December 1st letter. So we, as board members, we all get those VSBA emails, so you can register there. But if you want me to forward it to you, I'm happy to do that too. I'll be tuning in. It's a lunchtime meeting, so I'll be tuning in. And hopefully it will help me make sense of the December 1st letter. Great. Anything else for Director Gordon?
Thank you, Renee.
Okay, so that brings us to the chair report. The first thing we need to do under the chair report is, so Cassie Barbeau, who was the district clerk, has retired. She's down south now. The recommendation is that we appoint Kayla Thompson as the clerk. I presume we're all aware, but if anyone is waiting at home, we have Jeff as our board clerk, but that's different than the district clerk. Jeff's role as clerk is to write thank you notes and to do things like that. The role of the district clerk is far more is far more in depth. It requires a whole lot more than what we could ever reasonably ask Jeff to do, and really requires the infrastructure of someone like a town clerk to do that kind of work. So I would entertain a motion that we appoint Kayla Thompson as the district clerk, please.
I'll make that motion.
First and second, any discussion about appointing Kayla Thompson as our district
I
clerk?
met with Kayla to get my re-up nomination forms and
Yep.
signatures the other day. She's lovely. She is on top of everything. What she doesn't know, she'll tell you she doesn't know, and she'll get back to you. And excuse me, it was a really nice experience, and I think she's going to do great work, and hopefully keep her for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I would expect, she's been working under Cassie for since Tim retired. So
Yeah.
I think this is going to be great. I think it'll work well for the town of Bennington and for our district as well. So excellent.
Second.
We haven't taken a vote. Yeah, any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Kayla Thompson as the district clerk, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that carries. So congratulations, Kayla. I just wanted to draw your attention to some other documents related to Act 73. One of the biggest probable impacts from 73 is the redistricting. And in the board, so there was a task force assigned, a redistricting task force that was assigned and charged with generating recommendations for how the state of Vermont ought to be redistricted. And I think to maybe just about everyone's surprise, the report was essentially, we're not gonna. So there is no recommendation for redistricting from the task force.
It took them 125 pages to say that.
Took them 120, yeah. So the full 168-page report is in the board packet, as well as a 2-page summary is also in the packet. I say it with a chuckle. I have no idea what those deliberations were like. I know they are all professionals and they took the charge seriously, but particularly to read the VT Digger article the following day was pretty funny. But the fact remains, the legislation requires a final report to be issued by December 1st. So by the next time we come around, again, I have no idea what that final report is going to look like from the redistricting task force. I presume it will look an awful lot like the draft that was issued a week and a half ago, but I guess we'll see. So I just wanted to draw your attention to those two documents for sure. Another aspect of Act 73, though, is minimum class sizes, which I think it's separate from the redistricting. And it's really going to come to bear here at the ESD because we have Woodford Elementary School. As per this new law, the minimum class size, there's no minimum class size for kindergarten. First grade, the minimum class size is 10 first grade students. And for 2nd through 6th grades, the minimum class size is 12 students per grade level. And right now, Woodford School comes nowhere near that. I think there are 23 students total at Woodford School right now. So the way that the legislation is written, it says that if a school fails to meet minimum class sizes for 3 consecutive years, then the AOE can step in and do a number of things to include shut down schools and take over schools, as well as to add extra resources to a school. For those of us who have read the NASDAQ reports about best educational use of our buildings. It talks about demographic information for Woodford. And one of the most striking numbers in that report was that the birth rate in Woodford has gone down 75% in the last, I think it's 10 years. So I don't know what extra resources could potentially be offered to Woodford that would bolster up those class size numbers. So I do think that's a thing that this board is going to have to figure out what it's going to look like in the years to come. Again, we have some time to play with. And one thing that is clear in Act 73 is that there's a recognition that everybody does need some transition time to figure these things out. I think that's a very real thing that this board needs to figure out, is what the fate of those Woodford students is going to look like. I would add, Woodford Elementary School is 3.4 miles from the next closest elementary school. So I don't even know that there's an argument to be made that it is a rural school or it's a remote school, which there are carve outs in 73 for those two types of schools. Yeah.
No, there was a conversation at the SU level about what to do, possibly repurposing the building. Maybe making it one of those centers of excellence where we bring, if we have the opportunity to bus kids in for, intensive math services, intensive, SEL. You name the curriculum that you can put in there, behavioral school. And other options. One thing that I did mention is that, that if you don't operate it as a school in some form, the town gets to take it back, and that's an unfortunate situation for an SU that has put a lot of money, time, money, time, money.
Don't forget the money.
I think we got money, into such a, facility, and keeping, the things that, Holly's done to that building has brought it into the 21st century, so like we'd have to really hopefully sit around and powwow a good solution for that.
Yeah. I think the only thing
The numbers, they speak for themselves, and with the 6 people of childbearing age that have moved into it in the past.
However, you're forgetting the fact that there are areas that are close by that could also shift. I mean, it says redistricting.
I think that we should not be playing darts.
That's
because
right.
I think everything is going to change on every level that we know it.
Yep. I think the only thing we know for certain with regard to Woodford is that it's not going to look like, 3 years from now, it's not going to look like it looks right now.
Yeah, no, from a legal perspective, I can't.
Right, exactly. I'm not.
It's not from a lack of want or, looking for solutions and things like that. We may be the victim of the mandate.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm reminded of like Act 46. And like there were lots of folks when Act 46 was being put into place 6 or 7 years, 8 years ago, maybe at this point. A lot of people arguing like they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And of course they're going to do it. Like this is what the law is. This is what the legislation says. So we need to, be prepared for what gets handed down to us.
And we are operating another building that is not in a typical fashion that right now, that does not have that mandatory class size.
Say more about
There are options.
We're operating like,
Congress.
Oh, right. Yeah. And I don't know how programs like Beach Street and Congress would be considered within the context of 73, because I think they're designed to be short-term interventions as opposed to schools as but anyway, I wanted to bring that up only because I know that folks are busy. I know that folks don't always get a chance to wade into the information that comes to us from the VSBA or what's coming out of the AOE, but like that is a major thing that we can see is coming. And like we just said, what we know for sure is that it's not going to look like it looks right now. So, the sense of the chair's board, I will also say this as part of the chair report. I have no desire to keep any member of this board in the dark as to why I'm reluctant to bring the pledge back as an agenda item. What we can't do is talk about it in open session without it being warned. There's no reason to talk about it in executive session. It doesn't fulfill any of those criteria. What I would be absolutely willing to do is have one-on-one or small group conversations with members of the board. Small group meaning fewer than quorum, right? So we can legally have a conversation to explain my rationale, why I don't think it's a good idea for us to bring it back up. I have no desire to keep any of you in the dark on any of this. So please let me know if you'd like to do that, to include right after this meeting. We're already here, so I'm happy to hang out and have a conversation with fewer than 4 of you at the same time. So Turning back to our agenda, that brings to the chair's report. We have FYI, so we have.
I kind of want FYI.
Sure.
Because Glenn brought it up. Just an FYI, we have 3 seats open up this year. It's a Bennington, a Woodford, and a Pownell.
Yes.
So if people are interested in those seats, they can go to the town clerk office in Bennington and get the forms.
Excellent. Yep.
She's appointed.
Oh, that's
So it's a
fine.
1-year appointment. So she'd have to rerun. So if you're appointed, you get a 1-year seat. You don't get all 3 years. So like I said,
Think so. I think that's what he said.
because you're appointed versus.
Yeah.
I'll drive you around.
Yes.
The signature.
So it is 1 Bennington seat, 1 Woodford seat, 1 Pownell seat are the ones that look like they're expiring this year.
Yep.
People are more than happy to run those seats.
That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. We have the budget status report, the student enrollment numbers, which reflect among other things, the Woodford numbers. And then the FY 27 financial internal controls document, which I'm looking for in the board packet because I have to.
It's there. It's there.
There it is. Okay, thank you. Yep, number 3 on the list. There we go. Great. So that then brings us to the added agenda item, which is executive session. Glenn, could you please repeat, because I didn't have a pen in hand at the time, what subsection are you citing?
Proposing VSA 313A, given it deals with personnel, both the, employee and board.
I'm just pulling it up just so I can take a look at it while we talk.
They do need one by the end.
We'd like to invite superintendent and assistant superintendent and interim assistant superintendent.
So I'm sorry, I'm just now pulling up. So say it again, what subsection your motion was for?
313A.
Okay, so which subsection under 313A did you want to name specifically? So we have 313A describes the existence of executive session, but then there are specific points below that allow us that govern what we can talk about.
That's my Google spot.
Would that be it?
So you're saying subsection A1?
So
It's under there. It's a little tiny thing.
I can't read this.
can I come over here and show you
Yeah.
the statute right here?
Oh, grievances are in the
And then there are more descriptions down below.
Terrific. So grievances other than tax grievances.
Who is bringing the grievance?
I'm bringing the grievance.
Okay. Other than tax grievance. Okay. So typically, this grievance typically is reserved for and utilized for union grievances or labor grievances.
Thanksgiving.
Is there, right, because so a union grievance would place the public body or the person at a disadvantage, right? To bring that up in the public.
Correct.
Is the grievance you have in mind, either you or this body?
This body.
It's going to put, okay.
It has the potential to.
Okay, so specifically, this is 313A subsection 1D.
Thank you.
Was that what your motion was?
That was in where it intended to be.
Okay, okay, great. So, and who did you want to invite in?
Everyone, including the superintendent and interim assistant superintendent.
Okay, so
Renee will spare you.
I'm just working on the Zoom controls.
Oh, okay.
is there any, do you anticipate any action being taken?
I do not.
Okay, so,
I think it's a matter of we can get it out there.
okay, so, I would entertain a motion then, please, to move into executive session, as per, 1 VSA 313 subsection A1D.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Cindy. We have a second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jeff. We have first and second. Any discussion? And also to invite those people that Glenn said. Any discussion on moving into executive session? Hearing none. All those in favor in moving to executive session as described, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. We are in executive session.
You can pause, or it will.
So.
We're not gonna do
agenda items. It
executive.
wasn't right.
You're unmuted. And report.
Great. So I would entertain a motion, please, to exit executive session, please.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Cindy. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Corinne. We have first and second. Any discussion about exiting executive session? Hearing none. All those in favor of exiting executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries.
Would
So
like a motion to adjourn?
sure, we've exhausted our posted agenda, so I will absolutely accept one of those, please. Are you making it?
I would like to make that motion.
Do we have a second for Glenn's motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. We have first and a second. Any discussion about adjourning?
Oh,
Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning,
That is not good.
please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving, folks.
Is they up in there?
I think I can.
Say that again?